Hello. Alright, so I've got this part of this video. I watched an episode with Jeffrey. Jeffrey and the gang. Jeffrey and the gang. And almost everyone they talk about in this one show is someone in this place now. Dr. Buzzard, I do believe we know who Dr. Buzzard is. I'm not going into that. It's when they get to, I don't know what they called her. I thought they called her Angel, but they said it was Minerva. Now, this girl is someone I know. Not only did I have her in the phone as Minerva, because I'm psychic a little bit, and she'll agree. She is too. Weird shit. Friend of mine, Courtney. Every fucking thing that they say about that person is so relevant to that same girl. It stopped me when I listened to it the first time. And that's how I'm like, they got somebody for every motherfucker I know here. But interesting episode.
Practitioner, the Voodoo Queen of New Orleans. But Dr. Buzzard was so famous that people from all over the country would come see him or would mail him money to ask him to take off curses or put on curses or just help me find the love of my life, help me find more money. And so they would send him money. He became very, very wealthy. And I want to kind of put into, for a lot of people, Dr. Buzzard was a very terrifying figure. But he also did a lot of really good things. I mean, for example, he was a philanthropist. That's something a lot of people don't talk about. He built several churches on St. Helena Island, which is one of the islands off of Beaufort, South Carolina, and he helped a lot of people. But he would also show up in the courtroom when somebody had hired him to maybe go protect their son who was, having to stand trial for robbery or something. And he would come in with these round blue glasses and just have this appearance of having a magical effect on the trial and would try to sway the jury through magic and these kind of things. So for some of the population, he was a bit of a pariah, but to others, he was not only somebody that was there to help people heal, but to save people from racial injustice and to help people basically live happier lives. So you get conflicting stories. But if we're going to talk about Dr. Buzzard, I have to talk about the battle between Dr. Buzzard and Sheriff McTeer. Now, McTeer was the youngest sheriff, I think, in South Carolina history, and probably been the sheriff of Beaufort County for many years. And McTeer grew up all around this culture of the Gullah. And so he figured out that if he was going to be an effective sheriff, he had to enter the world of these people. So he became pretty well versed in hoodoo, and even gave the impression that he was a hoodoo doctor, a root doctor. Well, this led him in opposition to Dr. Buzzard. And there is a much folklore about the psychic battles between Sheriff McTeer and Dr. Buzzard. And they went back and forth and back. I remember one story was McTeer came in one day to find his desk had powdered all over it, and basically somehow Dr. Buzzard had gotten into his office and had done some ritual there to try and change the course of some investigation. Eventually, the psychic battles ended when, unfortunately, Dr. Buzzard's son was killed in a car wreck. And he attributed that to McTeer's magic. So he went to see McTeer and said, Uncle, you win. You've gone hardcore, let's call it a truce. And the funny thing is, in later life, the two of them actually became friends. And I think they kind of learned from each other. McTeer learning more from Dr. Buzzard. But Dr. Buzzard was a healer, a champion of his people. And in a time in which there was no internet, telephone only, you didn't see things like this in print, his influence just spread throughout the African American community, throughout the Southeast, even up into New York.
I'm assuming he had something like a mail order business.
Yeah, not so much that you would see an ad in the paper, it's just somehow they would find out, his address, and it got to the point to where I was told that when he would go to the post office, he'd come out with all these envelopes, and he'd sit in the post office and he'd open an envelope, and if it had a check in it, like someone wrote a personal check, he'd tear it up and throw it in the trash. He only wanted cash because he didn't want to be tied to, you have a record of everything. So he was doing so well, he's just tearing it, to I guess, protect himself. But yeah, the people would write to him all over, come to see him. Relatives that had said people would, there'd be cars from all over the country in the front yard sometimes when they visit speaking his health as a spiritual counselor, if you will.
It sort of reminds me of the attention that some of the Filipino psychic surgeons attracted to themselves.
You could, yeah, absolutely. And even though the real doctors didn't partake in that,
I'm not gonna text you all fucking day.
aspects of that are very similar, right?
And I gather that McTeer eventually had Doc Buzzard arrested for practicing medicine without a license.
Yeah, and it wasn't strictly McTeer. I don't think he was going to start it, but being the sheriff, you've got to do that. Yeah, and they kept trying to go after Dr. Buzzard, and they could never get him. Now, there were other people in that community, a guy, I think, if I'm remembering this correctly, Dr. Eagle, who was practicing without a license. Which, as a little side note, Dr. Eagle, his common law wife, was Minerva. And if anyone's ever read Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil,
This is it right here.
she was prominent in that book, a real person. She was a rhubarb. Some people said she was schizophrenic.
I know this person. This is Courtney. I called her Minerva. She was Minerva in my phone. She turned into fucking Corona. She's clearly got past lives. Clearly the schizophrenic, what you're talking about. The eagle thing. Then he says something about some mojo and some other crazy shit. But check this shit out. I know this girl.
But she had a lot of, we can use the term mojo. And so she was the common law wife of Dr. Eagle, who had some psychic battle with another guy who wanted to be Minerva's boyfriend. So people like that, and there's also Dr. Bug. Now, Dr. Bug was someone who would give a special serum to people who wanted to get out of the draft, because when they take it that morning, when they listen to the heart, it would skip a little bit. And so, well, you're unfit for the military, and then they cracked down on him. Well, Dr. Buzzard, getting back to him, never served any time. And it just kind of went away, and he is, his grave now is, very few people know where it is, and it's considered a sacred territory, and finding his grave.
That's mostly it.
Always kind of battle. And some of my colleagues see it not just as a